what I want to talk about today is with regards to tracking bands without a click and how why this might be useful. One of the first things is there's normally two instances where you might consider this about tracking with or without a click track. The first one is the band are pretty green and they're not used to recording to metronome or to click, and when you do try it, you sometimes get red light syndrome. What I mean by that is like they can play drums fine, but then as soon as you actually press record and there's a click track going on a count, that you find that because then there's a new thing to think about, they don't play as well as what they used to. Obviously, with session players or the guys who've been in experience for a long period of time, and it becomes second nature. It becomes a lot easier to deal with. So what I just want to have a look at is something that I picked up from a producer called Dan Swift in Rockfield, and he doesn't use a click track at all. And the reason being is that the song kind of flows. The song flows a little bit easy. You're not really worrying too much about tempo mapping. And then what he asked me to do for the sessions is, once we've got the tape that we like and we think it's pretty solid, we'll then use something in Pro Tools called Identify Beat. What Identify Beat does is you tell Pro Tools what bar number it is, and then it'll work out the tempo and go from there. So we're going to go into one of the corners. We'll do that one. Going to go into one of the corners. Choose one. Right, so if we just go into Pro Tools, this is the Secret Faces session that we did previously, and all I've done is I've just gone through and I've isolated, but I've actually made all the other tracks inactive. I left the markers in just to give a rough guide, and this is what the structure of the song was like. Let's just track. So here we are. Okay, and we'll go back to the main view. Zoom back out a little bit. So, what we have, first thing to mention is it's one of the songs that's either 3/4 or 4/4 for my sake of purposes. I was thinking about it. I was kind of counting, going 1 2 3 2 2 3 3 2 3 4 2 3. So set it in 3/4, and what I'll generally tend to do is when we were tracking this, I did leave it off originally without the tempo map, and there was just a couple of times where the drums dropped out that we needed to just kind of push the bass in time, and without the grids, it needed a bit more work. And I wasn't getting it quite exactly where I wanted it to, so I actually went through and actually tempo mapped the song. So got tab to transit on. The first thing I'll normally do is I'll go to where the counting is, and I press Command I, and it brings up this little marker saying Add Beat Marker, and I'm gonna put the first counting at bar 13. So change that to 13. I'm gonna keep the time signature at 3/4. And as you notice, is what happens then is this. I got a little blue little dot here, a blue little triangle, which kind of means that I've got a beat marker in. And as we go through this, you'll see that the tempo map will update. So what I've done for this tutorial is I've deleted the original one, so it may not exactly line up, but I'm just going to go through and show you what I did then. I think the original counting, it was 1 2 3 2. For whatever reason, there was 2 bars until the first beat, so I just tab through, and then this is going to become bar 15. So Command I again, and I type 15 in, and zoom back out. So then the other thing that I'll have set up as well when I'm tempo mapping is I'll usually bring a large counter up, which is Command and 3 on the numpad. And I just make this quite big, and I'll normally have that in the corner. I just drag it across, so I can kind of see where I am, just visually. For whatever reason with my workflow, I'm just used to having that number up in the corner. So now I kind of just go through and I follow the we've gone through, so like bar 19 here, this is, as I'm playing through, I'm counting and I'm listening in my head. I got bar 18 beat 3, and that's actually bar 19, so I kind of tab over to where the kick drum is, which is the 1 of the next bar, and I update it, and as you see, as I press that and press enter, if you should have noticed that the grid adjusts slightly, and might make that bar 23. So now, so if we just look at this now, I think originally the tempo was 120, and I've just done a couple here, and you can see we've gone from bar 87, which is the counting, 91, gradually ramping up a little at 92. But as you see now, as we're scrolling through, say from here, you notice now that I can probably go up to the chorus, and the tempo's actually pretty consistent now. So I'm actually quite happy just to go here, say bar 39 1, and put that as bar 39, and it'll just fine tune the tempo again. So we're now looking at 92.563, and then go on that kick drum, and it'll show me where the marker is. So 54 3. So make that 55. Probably got that chorus too, where you can probably see as you go through, it's actually pretty straightforward. Just to, as we're going through this, you can notice that the band are pretty tight and the tempo doesn't really fluctuate too much. So I can actually kind of just jump through and have a look. I could probably put one on 91. And then as we see, as we get in towards the end, we've got like a RAL or like a slowdown. I'm just going to put one on 121. And yeah, so that's it. I don't know how long that's taken, but now you see that we've got all these numbers at the top. And if we expand this out, it'll just show you the tempo. So I'm not really too worried about the start. What you can sometimes do, what I could have actually done is, I could have brought the song start, I could put the count in to 13. And I could have made that bar 1, and then that would have obviously changed it. The little red triangle here would have, the little red diamond would have moved it along. That is it. Command I. It's really, really useful. You can do it's like another way of doing it. When Dan was showing me originally, he was saying like we can go like that now. He was saying highlight the section that you want to do, and you've got to mark out the start point and end point, and then it will let you work out what the tempo is. So say I might use that if I wanted to change, if I wanted to go back through and retroactively change the time signature to 4/4. That might be useful. Generally, I've tended to use, as long as you make sure that tab to transient is on, which is, you can either click that, or I think it's Alt Command Tab. Alt Command and Tab. That'll let you kind of just cycle through like the beats. I normally have all the drums grouped together to do that. And this is really useful when the drums are really, really tight, but you just want to tighten it up a little bit in places, and this can really help. And yeah, so that is it, Command I. And if I'm just going to go back, because I did that as a save as, let's go back to Trouble in Your Mind. So this is the issue. This is just showing you what we had before. So this is what we actually had then for the actual track, 92, 92. So as you go across, you can kind of see that we kind of start ramping up towards the solo, where we're up at 94 and 93. And playing without a click sometimes actually saves me a bit of time, because the band are good. You don't really need to worry about it. And that's why I've done it. That's everything really. Command I is really, really useful for drum editing. It's really good for just like if you're working on pre-production, it might be good for actually figuring out what the tempo is. There's other things that we can look at as well, which I'll probably look at in another video, which is changing the tempo of a song out, like proactively changing the tempo of a song afterwards, like bring it up and down BPM. We can do that afterwards. So this is just so let's just hear it with the counting. So that.